Welcome, everybody. This is Primo Perspective, and I am Kristen Borth.
And I am Lorie Mills.
So we're going to be talking about something that's super exciting for me and utterly mundane for Lorie.
You'll get to teach me today because there's a lot I don't know about this. Everybody knows I'm a rev cycle nerd.
True.
Not so much operations. That's your category.
Well, and that's kind of the fun of talking about it, really, because as we get in and we're talking about it and we're learning, because I'm going to have those weeks too, where I am literally learning basics of, wait, what was that? Tell me again. Tell me what that means. Remind me that acronym. So we're going to be having fun doing that with this one this time, because it's really imperative that any listeners know about it, make sure that they're aware of it, and then make sure that they know about the compliance that's around it. So exciting news. We're talking about compliance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, okay. First, I wanted to ask, what do you know or do you know about HTI?
That I had to look up exactly what it meant last night. When you sent me the article, I was like, I need a glossary. I'm not real sure what all of this means. Yeah, I know it's big. It's, a lot of governance coming out about AI and things like that. And on the rev cycle side, this kind of might help explain it a little bit. We're all about getting the job done, but not so much about worrying about what's doing it to get the job done. We like the end result. You're all about how is it getting done.
Exactly. We're the ones building the road, and you're the ones at the end of the road just doing the thing. So I think it's really exciting to talk about compliance in the fact that we see a lot of regulations get, pushed out, and in a lot of ways that's a positive, because you have more guidance and you have more ways of knowing how to do something so that you don't get in trouble, you don't get those unnecessary lawsuits. But then what we're seeing with HTI is that it is tackling the digital ecosystem in a way that is creating something that I think of as moving things from access, fairness, safety, governance, and then deregulation and bringing in AI readiness. That's really the process that I see with this compliance. So before I sound like a complete compliance nerd, which I love.
But you are.
And I am. I want to point out that what we're really seeing with these HTI things is that we're trying to give empowerment, but then also structure around it, and then some deregulation to allow it to advance in a way that we haven't been able to in healthcare. Now, there's some pros and cons to this that I think would be fun to talk with you about. But first and foremost, let's talk about HTI 5, because it's out there for public comment. It's been released. It was released in December. Public comment closes at the end of February. So anyone can get on, and I encourage everyone to get on, and review it. But the whole premise of HTI 5 is to aim to deregulate and reduce regulatory burden for our AI systems, our technology partners, and help them to be able to move us forward at a faster pace. Now, healthcare and fast, I don't know if they always go together.
No, they don't. They do not. And so I do have a question, just talking about decreasing the burden. A lot of times we make decisions in healthcare that we think it's going to decrease the burden, but it really doesn't. It just adds another layer to what we're trying to do. So what do you think? Do you think this is really going to decrease the burden?
So the indicators say yes, because the rule proposes to remove 34 of the 60 existing certification criteria. So as we remove or modify and change some of those, I do think there will be a reduction. Now, there's a balance to this, right? Because you reduce that certification criteria, and then you could have your vendor or your homegrown system built out, and so
Right.
it doesn't follow everything to a T, or it creates other problems. And that's what we see a lot of when we reduce a lot of burden. It's like, oh well, we didn't anticipate this problem over here.
Yep.
So I get it, but at the same time, I think that those old requirements were a little bit outdated and redundant. And so it seems to me like it has streamlined them.
Well, and that's good. We definitely need streamline. It's what we need in healthcare. We have way too many hurdles we have to jump to do our jobs. And so streamlining is great.
Yes. Agreed. The other thing that I think with this one in particular, and bearing in mind that each of the HTIs have really focused on strengthening patients' ability to get what they need. So get their information, have their information. So that's kind of an underlying theme that sticks with HTI 5. But the other thing is that it accelerates the interoperability to a more modern standard. So we're looking at FHIR and API and how we can really move those things forward.
Right. And I thought that was very interesting last night. It was talking about the interoperability, and interoperability is a word that's been around in our profession for a long time. And to be honest, I thought we would be there by now, and we're not.
Right?
Yeah.
We are
Shocking.
not. No, and that's the disappointing part.
Yeah, it is.
Has it been around for so long, but we haven't been there? We're not there. The industry as a whole is not there.
No, we're not. And so I guess, one thing about HI professionals is we do work to get us there. And I think that may be why we're not moving as fast, is because a lot of tech companies, they don't hire HI professionals. They really don't. No. I mean, all of the EMR services I can think about, they don't hire as many HI professionals. And I kind of wonder sometimes if that's not the problem.
Yeah. I've wondered the same thing, and this should be a call out to all of our vendors within, healthcare, just in general, that HI professionals are only going to enhance your technology, enhance your process, enhance your service, because they understand the front to the back, and they don't do it all, but they understand it. And so that's where I think, we'll just have a really positive, technology environment if they would start hiring us, and then we could implement some of these things.
Yes, so, I agree 100%. 100%.
Yeah. And I love that this has an emphasis in AI innovation as well with HTI, because they're really looking at, there's 80 plus specs out there that really have to do with how you function within AI, how you implement what your technology looks like, how you govern it, how you protect it, make sure your patients and your clinicians are all on. So it's really great that has that underlying theme. But on top of that, it's also, in my mind, that accelerator of hey, go ahead, push forward. Let's see what you can do with AI. And I think that healthcare kind of needs that oomph behind it to say, okay, we can go forward.
Yeah. And I'm at a lot of HFMA meetings, things like that. And that's a lot of talk on the revenue cycle side is AI and what it's going to do for us and how great it's going to be. And, like I said earlier, I think sometimes on the rev cycle side, we're looking at the end result. We're not really worried about the road that was built to get there. We just want it to do.
I do think that. Yes. Yeah, for sure. We just want it to work, and we just want to make sure that we don't have complications that impact our patients negatively, but that we also don't have complications that impact our clinicians, because then we end up fighting with them and trying to get them to do things that they don't want to do.
True. And we don't need any more of that. I'm all about making it easier for the clinicians to do their job. I do feel sorry for providers sometimes, just, talking to them about their charting and things like that. It is a difficult task.
It is. It is. And I think that the more we talk to them, the more that we'll understand, and then we'll see ways to reduce
Hmm.
that for them.
Right.
I've heard too many, professionals say, "Oh, my doc brought me this, and he wants to use this new AI technology, but I know nothing about it." We can't be on the back of that. We need to be at the front. We need to be seeing
Right.
it, and that's where I see some of these regulations where we could be at the forefront of this
Hmm.
and be helping to
Right.
know when they do bring us stuff, because we can't know everything, but we can know
No.
a lot.
Right. I
And so if
agree. I
we
agree.
were at the forefront.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
So okay, let's play a little bit of a um devil's advocate here. So
Okay.
if we reduce regulation, like what would be the negative in reducing like the barriers, or the pushback that would be, no, we shouldn't reduce those. What if this happens? Can you think
Right.
of anything that our healthcare providers, our healthcare professionals would be like, oh no, that was a terrible move?
Right. Right. Yeah. I think exposing PHI, using
Mm-hmm.
AI, now we have,
Yeah.
it's a human control over a lot of this. And so what happens
Yeah.
when AI starts really doing a good job, and it does something that's
Mm-hmm.
going to release PHI, or it makes it vulnerable
Yeah.
to outside hackers and things like that. So that I guess that is one of my biggest concerns, is how do we still protect our
Yeah.
health information?
Yeah. Well, you brought that up, in compliance words, we would always say like weakens our safeguards, or, impacts our quality standards, and those types of
Hmm.
things. And so as we look at those like really big areas that would impact us, you
Uh-huh.
are right. That's like the basis of everything that we want to protect and we want to take care of. And so I definitely see that as a pushback to reducing these regulatory burdens, with taking away 34. That's
Yeah.
over half of
So
those.
I'll ask you a question, and this may it's kind of, I don't know if it's off topic or not. So like all of the health apps and things like that
Yeah.
that's doing all of this really cool stuff, and they're wanting to integrate. People are wanting to integrate that into their medical record and things like that. So how do you see that playing out in the future?
That is I think we thought we had big data 10 years ago. We thought we had big data 10 years
Hmm.
ago, and I think we have, exponentially more data now.
Hmm.
And I think it's going to make it harder for us to find, unless it is appropriately, connected through the right API to the right
Hmm.
area, but then it becomes part of the medical record.
Right.
And then there's a worry about that as well. So I think, I think in that capacity, when it comes to, personal devices
Hmm.
and connecting those through APIs, I think every facility should have a standard policy on which ones they are accepting at this point, so
Right.
that they know what is being safeguarded through those. They know what is coming through from them. They're able to work with the companies on them. And if you have that policy that says what you are what apps you are accepting at this time, because
Hmm.
you currently have agreements with their technology, your API is set up with them, that will help your providers to know that they're getting the data that they need, in
Okay.
my humble opinion.
Okay.
I
That
also
makes
think,
sense.
though, right. But I also think, Lori, that we've got so many new apps coming out that it's
Hmm.
almost overwhelming. So
Oh
you might
yeah.
be using one for the same thing that I could be using one for, and they would not be collecting in the same manner, the same information, and the same data. So
Right.
I think we just have to be really careful.
Hmm. So I think about that. So most people know that I'm a type 1 diabetic, and so I have the CGM and the app and all of the works and the pump, and um, you know,
Yeah.
it would be great if that data could feed into my EMR and my doctor could see it at real time, instead
Yeah.
of every 3 months. when I go, they download the information off my pump and look at it and could, get an alert. If there's issues going on, they could get an alert, go look at this. And so I think what we're going to is going to be very innovative, and it's great. It's going to be great for patient care. I just worry on, like you said, the IT side of it. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
How do we protect it?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing, because I know that HTI 5 proposes to remove clinical decision support rules and create more AI transparency requirements so that, we can streamline. But I can't help but think about the new lawsuits that are coming out.
Oh yeah.
The big one from Sharp with not autonomous, with ambient listening and the patient, knowing about it and bringing that up. And so that to me are the concerns when it comes to deregulating things, is how do you make sure that each of them have appropriately addressed and discussed with the patient what they need to, making sure that they're private and they're secure and that their interfaces are set up appropriately. So
I'm glad you bring that up about the lawsuit, because I have a great little, I always have stories. Lorie always has a story.
I know. I love it.
So, when I saw that lawsuit come out, or there was one came out of California last week, I believe, I immediately messaged that to the COO, the HIM director, and the CIO at one of my clients. And like a firestorm of conversation started. And it was, okay, where do we have a consent? Do we have this in the consent? And the COO said, well, just put it in the consent. I think, that'll be fine. And the HIM director was like, nobody reads the consents. We can put it there, but nobody reads that. They don't know it's there. So then there was a conversation of, okay, I said, do we post signs that says AI is maybe being used in your treatment? And so we agreed to that. And then we talked about the providers have got to tell their patients. They've got to say that, that we're going to be using AI to help construct your node or whatever they're using it for. And as we know, getting providers to do things like that is not always an easy task.
No. Well, and they may say something that they think sounds like they've just declared that they're using it. And this is for all of us, but the patient had absolutely no idea that that's what they were talking about. So, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Did you hear about the Epic versus Health Gorilla and Associated Parties lawsuit that is coming through?
I have not.
It was just filed. Okay. So they filed a federal lawsuit in California. And I note California because California has some of the strictest privacy laws in the nation. They've really amped themselves up. And they actually started that back in the 70s and, tried to have a lot of stronger privacy policies. So it's very interesting that they filed it in California for that. But Health Gorilla, I always say that one backwards, is a qualified health information network. And they had some fraudulent access and monetization of patient records.
Oh, wow.
And they were misrepresenting themselves. So Epic filed a lawsuit against them. And the reason that I bring this up is that we've got all these regulations, right? We've got compliance that we've got to come through, and we've got to talk about them because it is a very strong support of our healthcare system. But at the same time, like you said earlier, we've been talking about interoperability for so long that I think it's become something in the background for a lot of people. And it's like, oh yeah, we're interoperable. We're working on that framework. We're doing that. But I mean, TEFCA's still not highly adopted. And that's where this whole lawsuit kind of stems from, is that TEFCA's not highly adopted across our nation, along with the fact that California created a data exchange framework that counteracts or does not act well with TEFCA. So if you comply with TEFCA, you do not comply with California's DXF.
Wow.
Why they would do that, I don't know.
But I'm not going there, but yeah, there's a lot of things that happen in California I don't know about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it. And so, and you talking about this to me, it's very helpful because even though I'm an HI professional, like I said earlier, I'm not into this world. This is not the world I live in. And so making sure we do have HI professionals that are working in this space and are really helping drive these changes forward, and knowing what we need to do, it is probably one of the best things that an organization can do, is to have an HI professional that's talking about this and knows about this. Because I feel like a lot of times vendors will come in and they'll promise you the stars and the moon and the sun. And then you get in there and you start looking and they're not following the rules. And so the person that gets in trouble is the organization usually. They're the ones that get handed the lawsuit a lot of times. So I think having that expertise of people like you is what's really going to make this a thing in the future.
Yeah. I do think, and I mean, I'm so glad you pointed that out, and thank you. But I do think that in so many ways, we've passed the baton to several other organizations as well. And so, well, we can't cover it all. So here, and I think just as an overview, HI professionals, you may not be the expert, but you need to be able to speak the language and know what you're talking about. Because if you don't, and someone in your compliance department, quality department, all of them start throwing these things out at you, then then it's hard. It's hard to catch up sometimes.
Yes,
so
it is.
Listening and reading every once in a while, something that you fought hard when you were going to school to not read, might help a little bit with making sure that your facility stays a little bit more on top of it.
And that's probably an area that I definitely fall down in, is because it's so dry and to me it is so boring. And I read it and it's like, did I really just comprehend that? No, I just read it. Now give me something about some DRGs and clinical validation. I'm all about it, but it can be stuffy, but I agree.
My eyes glaze over.
I do. So I agree though that people need to have a knowledge base of what's going on. And I think about in like our rural hospitals, in these big organizations, you've got people that are experts in everything, but in a rural hospital, you've got like maybe an HIM director, and then she may or may not be, or he or she may or may not be credentialed. And then you've got a couple of people that work in there that are like HI specialists or something that most of the time are not credentialed. And I think about going forward, how do we make sure that our smaller healthcare entities are protected? How do we do that?
Yeah. Well, and not only that, they may or may not be credentialed, but they wear like 19 hats. So they're trying to figure all of it out and manage all of it, which is absolutely insane.
Right.
And, in trying to think about, but it is hard. Those rural critical access hospitals need support, but then they can't afford like the bigger organizations to bring in vendors to, help themselves be able to do better. And so there's things like that I hope podcasts and newsletters and email blasts, all of those things, they get to them so that they give them just a highlight really quick and let them know, if this is something you're doing, you should dive deeper. But if it's not, you can take a pause for a minute and just know what's out there.
Yeah, I agree 100%. 100%.
Have you worked in a rural or critical access hospital?
So actually, yes, I have. I am currently serving as VP of Rev Cycle at a small 49 bed acute care facility in South Mississippi. And you're right. The HIM director wears numerous hats. and not just her, everybody does. And it
Yeah.
is interesting to be there because even in the small town they're in, it's not that they don't want to do. A lot of times they don't have the talent, local
Right.
talent, so therefore they do have to send a lot of stuff out remote in order
Yeah.
to for support. I just rural critical access is my where my heart and passion's at, to protect them. And so I think that's why it's important that we have these conversations. Like you said, they don't have to spend a ton of money to find out the information. We're giving it to you for free on the
Right.
podcast.
Exactly. Yeah, it's speaking of rural health hospitals, it's fun to dive in and look from different perspectives with them on
Hmm.
different things. And I just got the privilege of working with a student who wants to do her PPE, her report from her PPE on maternal health in rural healthcare, settings.
Oh,
And
wow.
the information she's pulling out is fantastic. I told her and suggested you should look at the rural health grant that you are getting, that your state petitioned for, because
Hmm.
that outlines the 5 or 6 years of, funding, what they're going to do with that, how they're going to put that, to use. And I've looked at Arkansas's. Have you looked at
Hmm.
Mississippi's by
So
chance?
I've not dug down into the grant for Mississippi, but I have been very involved in talking about maternal health. Mississippi started a program last year called the Moms Program, and it is
Oh,
about
cool.
making sure that high risk mothers get the follow up and care that they need. I don't know if you know this, but Mississippi has the worst maternal care numbers out there. Like, we are
I did
number
not know
50
that.
in the country. We have the highest maternal death rate in the country. And so
Oh,
this
wow.
program has been established to try to help improve those numbers.
Wow.
So yeah, tell your
Well,
student to
I
give me a
mean,
call. I'll I'll
I will.
I will help her with some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I will. I find that fascinating. She actually mentioned the same thing.
Mhm.
And she said, well, Georgia has one of the worst.
Mhm.
And I went back and I read through the application that Arkansas put out. I didn't read through Georgia's or Mississippi's, but I've slowly been working my way around. I read California's, I read Arizona's, and I thought they were all fascinating. And Arkansas didn't mention maternal health, and I thought that was really fascinating. But what they kept emphasizing was our need for transportation, because Southern Arkansas is
Mhm.
really
Yep.
very rural. And so I thought it was really interesting that I was getting a different picture from another state, and then hearing, about Mississippi and how they're going to try to push forward as well. Um, you know, they're looking at handheld devices, just like we were talking about, to help
Mhm.
with all kinds of situations that they're experiencing in Georgia. And I thought that was absolutely amazing, because that will API flow right
Mhm.
into their record, and their provider will then get to see them. And they're doing a lot of telehealth in
Yep.
Georgia already. And so I think that that's all the more need to just be aware of what regulations are out there or what is being deregulated, so you can be aware of it, but then be able to move forward and ensure that you are completely covered with what you're doing.
Right, right. Yeah, I agree 100%. And as you mentioned earlier, or maybe you told me this offline, that HIT 6, they're talking about that already. I
Mhm.
mean, so as we know, everything just always evolves.
Yeah.
It starts out, in one area, but it evolves into usually something huge. And
Yeah.
so I'm looking forward to you being able to walk me through all of that and make sure I understand and can speak that language.
Well, I I find it all wonderful, because I do think it gives more control for our patients
Hmm.
when we have good structures and good policies and regulation around it. The one thing, though, that I will say, as we start to wrap this up in just a little bit, is that we didn't touch on the fact that compliance is really important and HTI is really important. We didn't touch on the governance component of that.
Oh, wow.
And how
Yes.
that is the hardest part to me, because there's zero funding. So often, the squeaky wheel gets the money in the hospital, and governance doesn't often get the wheel, because like, oh, well, we got the technology, just make it work. Right. And the process of making it work is so hard. Right. So hard. Have you experienced that with any of your clients?
Yeah, their governance piece of it is, and I think I told this story on our last podcast about the ER provider that was talking about this cool app he's using to do his notes, and I was like, okay, so where's the policy that governs how you're doing that? And he looked at me like a deer in headlights. So yes, governance is very important. And, I think one reason governance doesn't get as much attention as it should is because governance does not make you money.
No.
But governance does keep you from going to jail and getting fined millions of dollars.
Yes.
And I don't think we think sometimes we forget about that. We forget that, no, it's not making us income, but it is protecting us. And we've got to get better at doing that.
Yeah. Years ago, I had a CFO tell me, you need to stop saying the negative. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he said, don't say governance doesn't make you money. Say there is a cost avoidance opportunity here.
Right.
I said, oh my word, I will be using that for the rest of my life.
Cost avoidance. That is really great. Cost avoidance. We need more cost avoidance in some things.
Yeah, and he pointed that out strongly. He said, the compliance, the governance factors, they are huge cost avoidance, because when something hits those, it's a lawsuit. And as we've seen, these can be millions of dollars.
Oh yeah.
So the cost avoidance is strong, like the force.
I guess it's cost avoidance and it's stripe avoidance.
Yes.
You don't get put in the jumpsuit.
Yeah. I don't wear orange well. I don't want to go there.
No, me either. I look good in orange, but I don't want to wear it every day.
You look good in almost every color.
Well, thank you.
But I agree. Let's keep you out of orange full time.
Yes, let's do.
Yeah. So I forgot what I was going to say.
That's okay. It's getting close to time, though.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No, not really. Other than, guys, if you have any questions or you want to learn more about this HIT5, email us, shoot us a comment, give us a comment. We'll be on YouTube. Give us a comment there. We are happy to discuss any of this. So, just reach out. We can be found on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook. Kristen can be found on Instagram. I'm not so much there, but just reach out to us on any platform. We would be happy to have conversations about this. And also, look forward to our next episode. We're going to be talking about something I think is really near and dear to all of our hearts. Why is our healthcare system broken? We're going to dive into what we think some of that might be caused from on our next episode. So it was great, Kristen. Thank you for all the information. It was fantastic.
You're welcome. Thanks for putting up with me.
Always.
All right. Until next time.
All right. Later, guys.